So today guys, I'm going to show you how to make your very own dinosaur tail, just like this one. Stay tuned and I'm going to show you how. So to make our dinosaur tail, we're going to start out with a circle, and mine is 20 centimeters wide, in nice firm cardboard, which you're going to cut out with some nice sharp scissors. So once you've cut out your circle, which will be the base of your tail, we're going to pop that to the side and come back to that in a minute. Then on a nice big piece of cardboard, oh, I need to back off, you're going to draw yourself a tail shape. Mine's actually upside down. Let's flip this the right way. So I want you to think about the tail shape of a dinosaur, the dinosaur that you would like to be. I'm going to insert a little picture of the reference that I took to draw my tail. So once it's cut out, you should be left with something like this. Or should I say this? I think it's this way. Okay, so you're left with this. This end piece is the same width as our circle that we first drew. So now we're going to stick it like this, okay? So this is going to give us the circumference width that we're going to build our tail up to be. It's going to go from as thick as this circle all the way down to this point here. So I'm going to use my trusty glue gun, and I'm also going to use some tape just to affix this like this. Now don't worry about this floppy bit in the middle. You can always put a little bit of cardboard across here to keep it nice and strong. I recommend doing a little rectangular piece each side, and that will keep that from being really wobbly. When we pad this out, you're not going to see that anyway, so I won't worry about that, okay? So I'll be back in one tick once I take this down dead through the center line of that nice circle. So once you've stuck it together, you should have something that looks like this. You can see I've put those little rectangles of card on each side of the tail to stop it being so floppy at that fold in the cardboard. And you can see I've used some tape to fix it here. I used the little hinge kind of contraption, you see it better on this side, which is a piece of cardboard that I folded a rectangle of cardboard in half, and I wedged the crease bit onto the seam that sits between our circle and our tail piece. And when I glued them down with a little bit of glue gun, I found that it helped it in place. I did one each side, and this one you can see I taped it down to show you. You can also tape that little hinge down. So you could totally leave it like this. You could paint it green, and you could have a 2D version. You can see it's 2D here of a dinosaur tail. Pretty much the same idea as leaving your sliders 2D or your dino hands 2D. So you could leave it like this, paint it, and you're done. Or you could do what I'm going to do, which is make it 3D. So what I'm actually going to do is get a stocking or a pair of tights or something and use the material to kind of wrap it over this and then stuff it with newspaper. And that way I'm going to get a nice padded 3D effect, okay? So I'll show you me doing that now. I just so happened to have found a green stocking or tights in my dress-up box from when I was Frankenstein's wife on Halloween one year. So if you don't have a green one, don't worry about it. You're going to paint this anyway afterwards, but I just happen to have a green one. So I'm taking my scrunched up newspaper. You could use newspaper, or you can use plastic bags, whatever you like. And I'm going to start to pad out the tail and make it 3D. So I'm going to start at the very end here. I've crumpled it up to look almost like an ice cream cone shape with a point on the end. And that's where I'm going to begin at the very end of the tail. Now you don't need to completely cover this in masking tape like you normally would if we were covering it in mud rock, because we're going to use that tights material. So you can just loosely pin this in place, and that will just help give you a nice structure to your shape. You are obviously going to do both sides, so once you've done one side you can flip it over and do the other, okay? I'm just using little bands of tape here, wrapping it around the edge of the cardboard so that I can get a nice padded shape. I'm going to go all the way up to the base of the tail, remembering that I want to pad out this section fully. And and then flip it over and do the other side, okay? Okay, so here is my tail half padded out. You can see it's just roughly secured the newspaper down. I'm going to do the other side, fill it up, and then we're going to slip our stocking or tights over the top. At the top section here, where it gets a little bit thicker, I just added more balls on top, and I did this nice wrapping of the masking tape around to the back side. So I'm going to do that now on the other side. It took me about 10 minutes or so to fill it on up. And if you've got someone helping you, obviously it'd be a little bit thicker, okay? So let me finish padding out my tail and I'll be back with you in a moment. So once you've got to this stage, you can, if you want to, you could completely cover it in masking tape, and you can paper mache it, or you could mud rock it, depending on what you want to do. I'm going to try with the stocking here, just so if I can see if I can get like a really cool shape over it. So let's try it now. So far, so good. Loving this. So if I have two stockings in the back, bring a little bit closer. I'm going to add the second one here. I'm going to put a little bit of glue or tape on the edge just to prevent some rolling back on up. And I'm going to get the second one and take it from the top this time and feel out so it sits over that crease and I get seam line, which I can cover with paint. So now I'm going to just stick this down quickly and I'll show you on the second stocking or the other leg tights. Okay? So for some reason my camera just didn't film that bit. Wah, wah. But I cut the toes off of the end part of the stocking. I threaded it over the tail edge. Oh, I need to back up so you can see what I'm talking about. I threaded it over the tail. And when I got to the seam where I had finished with my first leg of my tights or my stockings, I held it down and rolled the rest of it, really tight it was, over the top. So now at the very end of our tail we have sort of this. I'm going to use some really strong tape. So we've reached this stage, we're going to add some paint to texturize our tail and make it match both our dinosaur hands and our dinosaur feet. So eventually we can put it all together and look like one big dinosaur. So in order to get this to match those, I'm going to need to add some colours onto this. And so I've got a really dark olivey green. I've got a dark grey. It looks like black, but it really is dark grey. I've got this warm brown colour, which is burgundy and burnt sienna mixed together. And I've got this really pale yellow, which I think acts really well to set everything off. So this accent of like neon bright green is already in our dinosaur feet. You can see it here. So I'm actually adding colour to dull this down to make it not so bright, okay? I'm going to do that with the dry brushing technique that we used on the feet and the hands. And because this is quite large, I'm going to use a bigger brush. So I'm going to be stippling on the paint much like this, keeping it really rough and loose. If you have too much paint on your brush, you're going to need to take it off and you can dust it onto some kitchen towel or some newspaper, okay? So you're going to see me doing a bit of that in fast motion, adding some colours onto this section to show you what it will look like. wanted to show the difference up close with your dry brushing technique, you can go from this to this. Look how cool that looks. It looks all scaly. And that's just by dry brushing paint over that stocking fabric, okay? I'm going to finish up the tail and then I'll show you what it looks like. So the last thing I had to think about was how to attach my tail to me. I decided to use a belt and create belt loops at the base of the tail that I could thread my belt through. This way I could make my tail adjustable in case my friend wanted to wear it, or in case I had a big lunch that day and I needed it to be a little bit looser. So I created these belt loops out of cardboard. I took a long strip of cardboard like this. I drew 4 lines. When I scored the lines, not cut them through all the way, but scored them and bent them, I created this kind of shape, kind of like a picnic table. Then I glued them to the base of my tail using my trusty glue gun. So I put some glue on the top panel and I glued that on first. So here I'm showing you, I'm going to press down the glue just on that top edge, just before the first fold. Now I'm not placing any glue on the second fold, the middle or the third fold, just the first and the last. So now I'm going to place a little bit more glue now on the last fold and I'll show you how I bent it into place. It's not very tricky, you just have to be nice and careful, and that means just going a little bit slower so that you know what you're doing. So I applied a bit of glue there onto the last fold, popped my glue gun down, and I made sure I bent back the folds so that I was creating that picnic table shape with the middle raised so that I could thread the belt through. And there you have it. I put 3 on mine, but you could just do 2 if you wanted. The bigger the tail, the more loops you'll need. Now I'm ready to thread my belt and all done. Are you ready for the final reveal? Let me just turn to the side and show you my tail. I had to come into my back room to show you because I needed more space and a bigger mirror. So I think you'll see that it's pretty big, and because we have made it quite nice and light, it stays upright, and the belt system means that you can drop it a little bit lower if you need. It sticks straight out, you can waggle it like you would a normal tail. How awesome does that look? And it's really cool from the front, you don't see anything, and then bam, look at my tail. You have to be careful when hitting things and turning, like that, turning corners. I am halfway to being a real dinosaur, look. Got my feet on, got my tail on. I hope you had fun with this video, guys, and I can't wait to see your tails in action. Make sure you get Lucy to send a picture to me. I'd love to see you all. Have fun, guys. I'll see you next week. Bye.